A website owner doubles monthly traffic and still makes the same number of sales. So the team decides they need even more visitors. But what if the new visitors were never the right audience? And what if the people who were ready to buy couldn't tell what would happen after they clicked? I'm Ace. Good to have you here. Let me ask you something. Is your website actually short on traffic? Or is it wasting the attention it already has? Here's the scene. More traffic is not a strategy. It's a tactic that helps only when discovery is the bottleneck. If the wrong people arrive, more traffic gives you more of the wrong problem. If qualified visitors arrive but don't believe the offer, visibility won't repair the credibility gap. And if they understand the offer but cannot take the next step easily, another 100 articles may simply send more people into the same dead end. I want to give you a simple way to sort this out. Traffic, trust, or transaction. These are not rigid boxes. A website can have problems in all three areas, but usually one stage is creating the biggest constraint right now. Your job is not to redesign everything. Your job is to find the weakest stage, run the smallest useful experiment, and see what changes. To make this concrete, let's follow Maya. Maya sells a $49 workflow course for small teams. The website gets attention, but sales feel disappointing. She has already considered publishing 10 more articles, changing the colors, and adding a new email tool. Sound familiar? Before she touches any of those things, she needs to answer 3 questions. Are the right people finding the site? Do they believe the course can help? And once they believe that, can they take the next step without guesswork? Start with the first question, but don't reduce it to a visitor count. 100 random sessions can be less valuable than 10 visits from people who have the exact problem you solve. That sounds obvious, but most dashboards still place the biggest number at the top, and the biggest number feels persuasive. Look at qualified discovery instead. In search data, what queries create impressions? Are those queries connected to the problem behind your offer? Do the landing pages match the intent? Check referral sources too. A site can receive plenty of visits from a broad social post while attracting almost nobody who is ready for its specific service or product. Maya might discover that most of her impressions come from searches like, what is workflow automation? Her course is designed for people who already manage a small team and want to reduce weekly reporting work. Those broad impressions are not useless, but they are early. They don't prove that her sales page is failing. They may show that the right people are not discovering the right promise. That is the first diagnostic signal. Qualified people are not arriving in enough numbers. Maybe relevant impressions are scarce. Maybe the title attracts a different question than the page answers. Maybe the referral source reaches beginners, while the offer is for experienced operators. Or maybe the site has useful content, but no focus distribution path toward the people it is built to serve. The response is not automatically a rebuild. It could be one page aimed at one clear search intent. It could be a better title and description. It could be a partnership or a small referral test. Choose a signal before you begin. More qualified impressions, more relevant clicks, or more visitors reaching the offer. Without that signal, get more traffic stays too vague to guide a decision. But suppose Maya checks the data and finds that the right people are arriving. They read the page, some come back a second time, a few even ask questions, but they don't buy. That changes the diagnosis. The next issue may be trust. Trust is not about covering the page with testimonials or making dramatic claims. It is about answering the questions a reasonable visitor has before acting. Is this for someone at my stage? What exactly do I receive? What does the process look like? What result is realistic? Why should I believe this person understands my situation? A credibility gap often appears as vague positioning. We help businesses grow doesn't tell me which businesses, which problem, or what kind of change to expect. A course promises a better workflow but never shows the workflow. A local service lists every capability but doesn't explain the service area, timeline, assessment, or first step. Pause there. A visitor can be interested and still feel uncertain. Those are different states. Maya might hear the same questions repeatedly. Are the lessons live or recorded? Will this work with the tools we already use? What do I get immediately after payment? Those questions are not interruptions. They're evidence of what the page has failed to explain. So she could add a sample lesson, show the course outline, explain who it is not designed for, and describe what a normal week using the system looks like. A local business might show the assessment process, a realistic example, and what happens after an inquiry. Context usually builds more confidence than decoration. The success signal here should be specific. Are more qualified visitors moving from the explanation to the offer? Are the same pre-sale questions becoming less frequent? Are people saying, I understand what this includes, instead of asking for basic clarification? Better trust does not mean everyone buys. It means uncertainty decreases at the point where a decision is being made. Now imagine the page is clear. The right visitors arrive. They understand the promise. They even click the button, and still very few complete the action. That's when you inspect the transaction, the handoff between this could help and I know what to do now. Look for unnecessary decisions. Are visitors choosing between booking, downloading, joining a list, reading more, and following social accounts? Does the button say what happens next, or does it only say learn more? Is the form asking for information you don't need? Does the pricing logic make sense? A small purchase should not feel like a complicated application. Here's an illustrative pattern. 1,000 relevant visitors reach an offer page. 100 click into the details, but only 2 complete the inquiry form. Those numbers do not prove the form is broken, especially if tracking is incomplete, but they tell you where to investigate before writing another article. Test a shorter form, a clearer button, or a sentence explaining exactly what happens after submission. The answer isn't always a lower price. Often, it is a smaller and more concrete decision. Contact us for more information becomes request a 15-minute fit call. A vague purchase button becomes get the recorded course and templates. A long form becomes a short request with a clear response expectation. Reduce the guesswork before you reduce the price. For Maya, the full path might now be obvious. If qualified impressions are weak, she tests one search page. If relevant visitors arrive but keep asking what the course includes, she improves the explanation. If visitors click buy and abandon at checkout, she tests the payment flow and purchase details. Same product. 3 different bottlenecks, 3 different experiments. You can do this review in about 10 minutes. Open one analytics view. Identify your main entry pages where those visitors came from and one outcome that matters. Purchase, a booking, a sign up, or a completed inquiry. Then inspect a small set of search queries or referral descriptions. Ask one uncomfortable question. Do these people actually have the problem my offer solves? Next, write down 3 real questions customers or prospects have asked. Use sales calls, support messages, comments, or ordinary conversations. Find the place on your site where each answer belongs. Finally, use your phone and complete the main action yourself. Notice every moment when you have to guess, compare, wait, scroll, or decide what to do next. At the end, choose one primary diagnosis. Not because the other problems disappear, but because priorities matter. If qualified discovery is weak, call it traffic. If people arrive and hesitate because the promise lacks context or proof, call it trust. If they understand the offer but abandon the handoff, call it transaction. Then time box a test. Give yourself an hour to choose the change, and perhaps 2 weeks to observe a useful signal, depending on your traffic and sales cycle. For traffic, watch qualified impressions or clicks from one intent group. For trust, watch movement from the explanation to the offer and the questions people repeat. For transaction, Watch completion from offer page to purchase, booking, or inquiry. And if your site is small, be careful with false precision. You may not have enough data for a meaningful rate, and tracking may miss important behavior. Combine numbers with direct observation. Ask a recent customer what they expected to find. Watch someone unfamiliar with the site try to book or buy. 10 thoughtful observations can be more useful than a dashboard full of unexplained percentages. Just don't turn diagnosis into procrastination. The framework is useful only if it leads to a decision. Find the evidence, name the likely bottleneck, make one change, and put a date on the review. You're not trying to prove a universal law about websites. You're trying to reduce enough uncertainty to make the next move intelligently. So before you rebuild, ask, are the right people finding me? If they are, do they understand and trust the promise? And if they trust it, can they take the next step without unnecessary effort or guesswork? Traffic, trust, or transaction. Start where the evidence is weakest, not where the redesign feels most exciting. Think about that for a moment. Which stage is your website actually failing today? Write down your answer, choose one experiment, and put a review date on the calendar. If this helped you see your website more clearly, subscribe to the show for practical ideas about digital assets, systems, search strategy, and building with better judgment. Well, that's enough to think about for today. Appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. I'll catch you in the next one.